Why the United States is great. Again, if you haven't heard, I want to tell you why the United States is great. I think that some people may have forgotten. Make America great again. It's a real catchy slogan. But I've heard people say that the catch is this means America's not great any longer and needs to be made great again. America, the name, describes an area of land. And yes, this plot of land that America refers to does need to be made great. Of course, maybe make America great again should be make America great always. This means making America great requires a sustained concerted effort to return back to the principles and values of the cornerstone, the foundation of the greatest sacrifice of all time 2,000 years ago. The United States, it's not a region. America is an area or region. This I would call a country. Countries here, countries there, countries all across the globe. On the other hand, the United States is a nation. What's the difference? Let me explain it like this. The opposite of a nation would be an empire. Empires are where countries are subjugated by force. The subjugated countries would become subjects of the empire. Yes, there might be some representation to quell the subjected people's frustration, but for the most part, subjected countries are governed without the consent of the governed. For example, Romans would conquer, then whom they conquered would become subjects of the Roman Empire. Only Romans were citizens of the empire. The rest were subjects to be lorded over. This is different from a nation. In the nation of the United States, the way is all the states are governed by the consent of the people, and the people of the nation of the United States are citizens rather than subjects, or they become citizens by learning and aspiring towards our values. Now, I understand that from the beginning, America functioned more as an empire, conquering what wasn't theirs to begin with, and this fact has been continuously used to argue that America's no good because of slavery and the American Indian land. And yes, now we're being treated more like subjects in our own nation. Yet, what makes the USA great aren't the mistakes that were made, but the mistakes that were corrected. And believe me, they will be corrected. You see, what makes the nation great, and what makes us different than all the rest, is that in the beginning, the founding fathers set a goal. And they knew that this goal wasn't going to be achieved overnight, or in 100 years, or 200 years. Or so on and so forth. But the path that they set, the goal of liberty and justice, all-inclusive and idealistic freedom, this is what makes our nation different than all the rest. That from the very beginning was established the Republic to protect our rights, as well as set the direction for the nation to aspire to achieve liberty and justice for all across the globe, even into the stars. I'm absolutely sure they didn't fully understand, the details. Or in the case of slavery, they didn't have the strength to outlaw it from the beginning. And there was a compromise to unite. Thus was allowed slavery for a short time. And as this was the start, they didn't fully understand how to fully implement, or even the extent. Thus our democracy was born, which was to over time govern, meaning lead. Lead the people of the United States into prestige for a greater understanding of how to implement justice and all of liberty. They set up a democracy so that we could have peaceful revolutions. As Jefferson said, the tree of liberty, it must be refreshed from time to time. And I'm sure the founding fathers knew history. They knew that with every revolution throughout time, there was always another. As over time, all authority has historically demonstrated it can become self-serving, overbearing, and tyrannical. Then the authority would start treating the people as subjects again. As those in control gain riches and power, from this grew great disparity between the subjectors and the subjected. With every revolution there was bloodshed. The United States was set up to avoid this. And set up so that in the eventuality that if the government started to subjugate the people, that we could simply remove those in it for themselves, those servants of themselves, remove them from power. And through democracy, refresh them with self-sacrificing leaders of liberty. And these are the reasons why the United States is great and has never stopped being great. From the start, set up with the goal the nation could aspire towards. And through the Republic, the principles and values could be maintained and not infringed upon, and even have rights and freedoms increased, and so that we could have peaceful revolutions. Peaceful revolutions transferring power without bloodshed, refreshing the tree of liberty, renewing our mission towards the dream of the United States. And you know what? Despite the detractors, no one can deny we have steadily been marching forward towards the goal. I mean, for goodness sakes, common man, the right to vote without owning land, emancipation, women's suffrage, civil rights, rights for the disabled, and we the people, we're not gonna stop. Because, you know, what we stand for transcends past or present. From the inception, the great United States rises above to the future that we will become. And even if we aren't there yet, we will never stop marching forward. Forward built on the cornerstone, as sure as the sun almighty rises, as a boundless beacon of hope. The Spirit, working through we the people, aspiring towards the greatness of liberty and justice. This is why the United States is great.